more or less the end of the month. That being chosen next week, but we're getting into that period. Charlie will be on with us shortly, and as usual, it's going to be an interactive program as we wrap up the week. But I want you, the listeners, to know this morning that the Prime Minister will be delivering his address before the United Nations General Assembly, which is being held in New York, very shortly. I know the Chinese member of the Chinese delegation is currently speaking. So after that will be St. Vincent and Grenadines. And we will, on this program, when that time comes, more or less bring it live for you this morning to hear the Prime Minister's address. Of course, there are some issues that he will focus on in his address this morning before the General Assembly, which includes issues of climate change. Because as persons may or may not know, a bulk of our debt, actually, from the government standpoint, is as a result of spending on climate resilience and climate change issues. Like, for example, currently I know the government is constructing a city fence out at Sandy Bay, and that is just about over $40 million. Persons would know that we also have to save the bay in Myro, Salt Whistle Bay. That's a lot of money. Persons would recall many years back, the government built the city fence in Layu. The government also did city fence in Georgetown and Sanssouci, and river defenses in places like Hope, Vermont area. You also have in Kingston. So a lot of these debt is as a result of climate change issues, including responding to disasters, floods, and the like. And that is why whenever you hear the NDP talk about debt, it's not the government spending it willy-nilly on anything that is not impacting the people. But the bulk of it is actually as a response of climate change issues. So climate change is one of the issues that the Prime Minister will be addressing. He has always been echoing the need for the world, the global community, to address these concerns, limiting carbon emissions, and also in providing for small and developing states that are adversely affected in terms of concessional financing. So I believe the Prime Minister is going to speak now, so we will bring that through for you this morning.
Gravely unsettling the world to the advantage of not one single nation state. Civilized discourse, tempered with patience and calm, has given way to a bellicosity of language shouted across continents and oceans, designed presumably to satisfy nativist longings in the breasts of those who think that, despite their good fortune, relatively, they have been grievously wronged by some dark and hidden forces. Can none of these persons pause and reflect upon the question posed and answered by all the world's great religions, but in particular through the words of the Hebrew prophet Micah. What does the Lord require of us? To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. The intractable problems facing humanity cannot be solved by any one nation unilaterally. A mature multilateralism is required to address satisfactorily rampaging climate change in the age of the Anthropocene, to resolve the threats posed by nuclear weapons and their further spread, to pursue peaceful coexistence rather than conflict, terrorism, and war, to reform the system of financing for development, inclusive of a just climate financing, to tackle successfully the growing challenges of artificial intelligence, to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, be guided by the Global Digital Compact and the Pact for the Future, and to reshape global governance more inclusively. It is thus of the highest importance for this august body, the United Nations, and the overwhelming majority of nation states within it, to continue our efforts to persuade the powerful to act equitably, honorably, and multilaterally, to tackle efficaciously the extant and looming challenges facing the global community. Oftentimes, it is frustrating and disheartening to those of us who are committed to this necessary and desirable path of mature multilateralism, because our Herculean efforts seemingly deliver correspondingly negligible results. Nevertheless, we cannot give up. We cannot afford to get weary. We have no choice but to persist in this ever more urgent multilateral solidarity and cooperation as we pursue the political and economic spaces to make this world a better place for all humanity. Your Excellencies, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, like all countries globally, have been shaped by our history and geography, our nature and neighbors, our extant circumstances, and our dreams for a better future. For example, we carry the benefits and the burdens of our geographic location, near to the greatest economic, military, scientific, and culturally dominant power the world has ever seen. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is where it is. It cannot be lifted up and taken to Vladivostok or the mouth of the Amur River. Yet, as a free and independent people, we have the right to pursue peacefully and securely our quest for shared prosperity without domination, interference, or intervention from any of our neighbors or from any power that comes from afar. Today, as I speak, my government and my people have another challenge from the nefarious activities of the agents of a rising or risen hegemon from another hemisphere, and from some greedy, unprincipled, non-state operators in Europe, acting in concert, seeking to pollute and interfere in our democracy, our free and fair elections, which are scheduled to be held later this year. Their conduct is unacceptable and hugely injurious to our people. Your Excellencies, the raging genocide and neocolonial oppression being committed against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank before our very eyes on global television and are continuing affronts to the elemental rights of the Palestinians, to civilized conduct, and to international law. How can one state, a member of this august body, act with such impunity against defenseless men, women, and children? Surely, the hottest part of hell is reserved for those perpetrators of genocide and those who are complicit in it. Over 200 years ago, the British committed large-scale genocide against the indigenous people of my country. And we are still suffering, enduring the historical legacies of underdevelopment therefrom. Similarly, the genocidal enslavement of African bodies in our Caribbean, in our hemisphere. It will take centuries for the pain, suffering, and legacies of the current genocide of the Palestinians to be repaired. We in the Caribbean are today demanding justly reparations on native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies, which occurred centuries ago. This tragedy, this madness that has been unfolding unabated in Palestine must stop. Israel's recent expansion of this war against the Palestinian nation in the state of Qatar is unacceptable. We stand in solidarity with Qatar. Your Excellencies, St. Vincent and the Grenadines calls urgently for a lasting peace across the Taiwan Straits and the participation of Taiwan in the specialized agencies of the United Nations. It is a continuing absurdity that this country of 23 million people, a functioning democracy with a settled yearning for self-determination, a legitimate institutional expression of the Chinese civilization, with first world living standards, a land of peace and ingenuity, cannot be properly accommodated in the global bodies concerned with health, climate change, civil aviation, policing, and so forth. Similarly, it is long overdue that the fractured relationship between the United States of America and Cuba be made whole in mutual respect, in accordance with international law and consistent with the interests of both neighbors for peace, security, and shared prosperity. St. Vincent and the Grenadines implores the great American nation, and it is a great nation, to listen and act upon the near unanimous advice of this General Assembly, which has repeatedly called for an end to the oppressive, unlawful embargo against Cuba. I am calling for a mature conversation between the United States of America and Cuba. Likewise, the recent ramping up of tensions between the USA and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is most unhelpful to peace and stability in our Caribbean and Latin America. St. Vincent and the Grenadines calls for the scaling back of actions and rhetoric which are so inimical to cordial neighborly relations. In particular, we find the foreign militarization of the waters around Venezuela exceedingly troubling. Repeatedly, the countries of the Caribbean and Latin America have unanimously declared our area a zone of peace. We urge our American friends to abide by this declaration. By all means, let us cooperate in combating drug trafficking and allied transnational criminal activities. But the unilateral militarization is decidedly not the way to go. Also, again, I'm imploring my American and Venezuelan friends to sit down maturely and talk through these problems so that we can have a resolution. In Haiti, matters political, economic, and social continue to deteriorate. Gang violence continues unabated, and a veritable Hobbesian state of nature exists in which life is nasty, brutish, and short. Haiti's political and economic elites have been found wanting, but it is true, too, that the international community with the means to assist has not as yet summoned up the will to do so. A solution is required in accord with the Haitian people's deepest longings for peace, security, and a normal civilized life and living. The UN Security Council, with CARICOM's full support, is seized of this matter, but an insufficiency of resources and will have attended it. So too, the pain and suffering in South Sudan demand immediate relief and more. Your Excellencies, in November this year, the Conference of Parties under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change gather once more, on this occasion in the great nation of Brazil. The issue of climate change is urgent and existential. The science is clear, and there has been a growing, even overwhelming global consensus as to what is required to be done. But sadly, some powerful and other influential countries are backsliding and reneging on their earlier commitments. Excellencies, just over a year ago, on July the 1st, 2024, a Category 4 Hurricane Beryl devastated my country. Lives were lost, and damage and loss amounting to 1/3 of our gross domestic product was incurred. In particular, 20% of our houses were either severely damaged or destroyed. We have been rebuilding and recovering stronger and better than ever. We thank our regional and international partners, including worthy non-governmental entities, for their solidarity, without which our tasks of reconstruction would have been even more onerous. We thank, too, our diaspora. But to tell the truth, we have had to rely mainly on our own efforts at home. There's much, much more left to be done. And I again plead for the enhanced support of our friends, our allies, and good Samaritans. Our people's resilience, creativity, and disciplined endeavors have been a marvel to behold. This is a testimony to our people's genius and the coming to the fore of our people's hidden rationalities, their hitherto submerged resources and abilities, a renaissance of their spirit, and the reaffirmation of the idea of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Madam President, I conclude with 5 reaffirmations for those from the dominant metropoles of the West and the East who may possess the good sense to listen to some friendly advice from a spokesperson from the periphery. First, do not think ever that our mouths would be muzzled by the food that we eat to live. Secondly, know it well that while some sleep to dream, the rest of us dream to change the world for the better. Thirdly, we have a voice, and this voice will never be stilled. Fourthly, we are not better than anyone, and no one is better than us. And finally, we too have a history of civilized life and living with a trajectory for further advancement and ennoblement. We are not appendages of any other nation. We are a free and independent people made in the image and likeness of God. We are the embodiment of the idea of St. Vincent and Grenadines. We are friends of all, and we strive for a better world. We are a small nation, demonstrably like other small nations, capable of mighty deeds. Excellencies, we are small states, but we have an important role to play in global affairs to the betterment of all. Imperial giants and hegemons, whether from the West or the East, must not hold us back. Together, we have an obligation not to desecrate our future. Thank you. I'm obliged.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister and Minister for National Security, Legal Affairs and Information of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Luc Frieden, Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. I request protocol to...
WEFM 99.9, home of quality programming. A source of reliable news and information. Home of legendary voices and music. WEFM 99.9, the clean first sound. Visit us online at www.999wefm.com or call 457-9994. WEFM 99.9, the clean first sound.
Tired of sky high bills and the planet on the brink? It's time to go green without burning your pockets. At First National Bank, we are here to make saving the planet affordable. Whether you're installing solar panels, purchasing a water tank, upgrading to an inverter AC, or buying a hybrid vehicle, we've got the green to help you go green. Fast approval, low interest rates, and Mother Nature approved. Your future self will thank you. Visit firstnationalbankonline.com or call 784-456-1501 for more information to help you turn your green dreams into clean realities. First National Bank, here for you.
Yes, sir.
Our industry relies on all of us to play our part. We take pride in showcasing our beautiful island, our craft, our cuisine, and our warm Vincentian hospitality.
Each of us play a crucial role in showcasing our vibrant tourism industry.
We can create spaces where visitors can unwind, connect with nature, and embrace tranquility of our beautiful surroundings.
We need everyone on board to help us create an exceptional experience for our guests.
Join us at our National Tourism Community Consultations as we shape the future of tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
It's everyone's business, yeah. Live it, love it, embrace it.
Sparrows run of pure sophistication. Sparrows run aged to perfection. Skillfully crafted and forged with time in oak barrels. A rum so divine. Discover authentic Caribbean rum. Sparrows, premium rum. Sparrows, full-bodied rum. Sparrows, pure sophistication. Discover authentic Vincentian rum. Sparrows, premium rum.
Distilled and blended by St. Vincent Distillers Limited. Please drink responsibly.
Agents, Careers, Distributions Limited.
WEFM reminds and encourages the general public and users of the Kittles Beach to keep it clean at all times. Discard of all garbage properly. It is illegal to remove the sand from the beach. Let us keep the Kittles Beach and other beaches across St. Vincent and the Grenadines clean, so that you and I can enjoy it and marine life can survive. This is a message from WEFM 99.9, the clean, fresh sound.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, are you ready? From October 2nd to October 5th, the Victoria Park will explode with the vibes of the Cannabis SVG Festival. Day 1 and 2, October 2nd and 3rd, it's the opening ceremony, expo, and conferences. Day 3, October 4, Cannabis Facilities Tour by day and the grand reggae concert by night, featuring Spragga Bands.
Moving up the line, now go look behind me, just a head to the top until victory is mine.
Spragga Bands. Also featuring Beanie Man.
Who got the keys to my bimmer? Who am I? The girls them sugar.
Dr. Beamer.
Welcome the king of the dancer.
Day 4, October 5th, a scenic catamaran cruise to Beckway. It's not just a festival, it's culture, it's wellness, education, and pure bliss. Cannabis SVG Festival 2025, brought to you by the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, Canada SVG Medicinal, and the SVG Tourism Authority.
Let's do this.
WEFM 99.9.
So yes, we are back in studio of WEFM. I am your host, Augustine Ferdinand, and in studio with me is none other than the good brother and friend, Michael Charles. Charles, good morning.
That's a good morning, Foggy.
Well, we listened to the Prime Minister a few minutes ago addressing the United Nations General Assembly. He touched on a lot of matters of real global importance,
Most definitely,
and especially in the region. Haiti instability.
Yes.
And you have also the tensions between Venezuela and the United States. Of course, there's this between Venezuela and Guyana as well. You have the issues pertaining to climate change. All very important and have no doubt can have a wide-reaching impact, not just on the region, but especially St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well articulated.
You know, and we expect no less,
indeed,
from the Honorable Prime Minister. And this is another reminder as to, you know, when we get closer and closer to that date, what is it we are voting for? And leadership,
indeed, but
becomes
a typical example,
very important in that discussion. Who would you trust to go out there and represent St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and not just represent as in speaking before any institution, but also in highlighting, not being afraid to highlight the many different issues and call out countries when they are wrong, in the interest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But as usual, Chalo, on a Friday, we wrap up the week. There's been a lot of activities here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I know in your neck of the woods, I asked someone if Marvin mega football competition done, and they tell me no.
No. We have another weekend.
Another weekend?
Yes.
Charlo, how long have you been having the football?
Well, it's beginning early August.
Early August?
Yes.
And now is September 26th.
Great.
And
been going on. And this evening is Mega Friday. We have football, we have bingos, we have food, we have drinks. It's the whole works. And not only that, the community of shops, the people with the ice boxes, the popcorns and so on.
Well, I think I passed up there Sunday. And I had to, where did I park, boy? I had to go up Chigga side to park because it took up the entire from the corner, go all the way down past the playing field.
Yes.
There was no parking. So I asked myself, wait, it have to be this week, this football thing finished, because it can't go into next week. Anyways, I am happy that the community of shops and neighboring areas, including Green Hill and even down Hollywood,
Kingston Park,
that a lot of youngsters are going there to participate, and also to spectate, taking it build a kind of good community spirit.
Yes. The competition is well supported by the community, by the constituency, I must say.
Well, I think I understand Marvin's idea behind it, because I know government for the longest while we've been focusing also on sports against crime.
Yes.
And also I am, as much as I raise my eyebrow given the length of time, which speaks to Marvin's own commitment and his own network, because I know it's easy to keep a tournament like that going more or less for over almost a month.
Yes.
But it's really good.
Indeed.
Really good. But as I say, we usually wrap up the week. I know there's also the talent search from the Prime Ministerial Youth Advisory Council. You had that last week and also this week at Calicut Town Hall, where persons come out and they showcase the talent. For one, I'll say I wanted to see a more diverse set of talent. A lot of persons went into singing. I thought I'll see some persons, doing maybe
instrumentals
violin and wind instrument and maybe a lot of magic tricks and that kind of thing. But But I believe as time goes by, and no doubt the Prime Ministerial Youth Advisory Council, even next year, may try to ramp up whenever this initiative comes on again. It's marketing in that regard. But so far, you had a wide range of talent, talented young persons who entered. And tomorrow will be the semifinals for that, and it will take place at Peace Memorial Hall starting 7 o'clock. I know the public more or less enjoyed the talents they saw so far, and I'm quite sure that come tomorrow at Peacemo, many young persons and even family members will come out to witness the semifinals talent search. Of course, there are cash prizes up. You have about $25,000 hanging there for the winner, the best talented of persons. So that will take place tomorrow at Peace Memorial Hall. Also, I know yesterday there was the distribution of fertilizer. Of course, the government continues with its production support program. And you've had under that program the distribution of chickens, layers, broilers, turkeys, seedlings, and now you have fertilizers.
But even before that, in the 40, you have the vouchers from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, at Agricultural Input Warehouse.
Yes, the farmers going to get up to $500 worth of stuff, whether it's manure, cutlasses, rake, pick, you name it. Spray cans, the whole works.
When the labor is working, it is you don't have to look far.
Boy, it will look like labor is overworking.
You don't have to. You don't have to look far. And thanks for that reminder. And that is why when some persons ask, well, what is the government doing pertaining to agriculture? It's there. You're giving the farmers the helping hand where production is concerned, and that production we're also gearing up towards Christmas, and a lot of persons want the vegetables, especially around that time. It's in even heightened demand. A lot of persons also demand eggs because you have a lot of baking going on. So yeah, and I have no doubt that we'll have local supply of eggs.
Yes, we will.
I have no doubt, and I've seen it in supermarkets where there's even local supply of whole chicken. I have no doubt that there are persons who would be able to buy local turkey. And that is as a result of the efforts of the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines under the stewardship of the Minister of Agriculture, and Soboto Caesar.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to now, the local turkey, because over the years I developed a taste for turkey during Christmas.
I also prefer turkey. I tell them I prefer white meat in that regard.
Yes.
But I have no doubt that we'll see more and more persons selling that on the market. And even in the supermarkets, I visited a particular supermarket and I saw whole chicken, local whole chicken.
Yes.
And all these things are evidence as to the government working, and the farmers are putting in their work also.
Yes.
In satisfying the local demand here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, where agricultural produce and even poultry and livestock is concerned. I know there's also, we are going to enter into the Independence Month.
Yes.
And we have the Independence Food Village, and they dub it Taste the Nation, where culture meets cuisine. So you have a registration going out, and I think there's online form, and that sort of event will be taking place at the Tarmac. Just as how you have Best Village competition, so it's things are heating up already. We see the Independence Committee putting up the decorations around Tongue, capital city Kingston, in that regard. Charlo, something very important, and I know the listeners would be quite interested in this. This is pertaining to health, is where the Ministry of Health is going to introduce 4 locations for HPV testing.
Very, very, very much appreciated.
And I know some time back, the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, and also the Minister made mention encouraging persons also to get vaccinated, HPV vaccine. So I just want to read here, and this was a release from Agency for Public Information, API. It says, as the Ministry of Health begins to implement its national strategy for the elimination of cervical cancer, Minister of Health Honorable Jimmy Prince stressed the urgency of the effort, noting that 2024 alone, which was last year, 17 Vincentian women lost their lives to cervical cancer. Okay. Minister Prince said the national strategy for the elimination of cervical cancer 2025 to 2030 will guide the country's response, focusing on vaccination, screening, and access to treatment, and called on healthcare workers to approach the fight with sensitivity and dedication. Goes on to say the launch of the project took place on Tuesday and was described as not just symbolic, but a call to action to protect women and secure a future free from cervical cancer. It goes on to say the initiative introduces HPV DNA testing in the public system for the first time beginning October 6th. And please, those of you listening, take note of these locations. Beginning October 6th at pilot sites in Georgetown, Sandy Bay, Layou, and Bokomant. So that's October 6th, next month, which would be the Monday. And the locations, Georgetown, Sandy Bay, Layou, and Bokomant. Women testing negative will be rescreened in 5 years, while those testing positive will receive timely follow-up. So the focus, vaccination, screening, and testing. Screening and vaccination. And that is part of the Ministry of Health's thrust in focusing on eliminating cervical cancer. So that is another step the Ministry of Health is taking. Of course, recently, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think it was last year, where the Ministry of Health from the WHO, the World Health Organization, more or less got an award or was commended for totally eliminating the transmission of HIV, not just HIV, but in particular syphilis to children, syphilis, HIV to from mother to child. And that is another step of in our healthcare sector. And it speaks to the advancement of our own healthcare system here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And I want to read it here. This was last year, April, actually. And it says that St. Vincent and Grenadines has achieved the UN-AIDS certification of the dual elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, becoming the sixth organization, the sixth OECS member state country to do so, which suggests there are many others who still haven't done that. It says this achievement signals to the world that ending pediatric HIV and syphilis is achievable, and so said the executive director of the Joint United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS in a letter to Prime Minister Gonzalez. It says that this is a testament to the resilience and dedication of St. Vincent and Grenadines and other Caribbean countries in ensuring health systems with strong maternal, neonatal, and child health programs that integrate HIV and syphilis interventions in healthcare service and child health care. It is also a recognition of strong and sustained national leadership and commitment to health and strong maternal, neonatal, and child health program. It goes on to say, under your leadership, the Minister of Health, Honorable Jimmy Prince, has translated your political commitment to ending AIDS into action by leading a dedicated team of healthcare providers, including clinical care managers, nurses, primary health nurses, community nurses and health aides, lab technicians, and surveillance officers and members of the national validation team, including community representation from women living with HIV, to attain this public health milestone and to continue to maintain this success. So that was from the representative of the United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS. It says that SVG's leadership and hard work are helping to ensure no child is born with HIV and syphilis in the Caribbean, a milestone as we work to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Again, milestone in health. So I spoke about HPV, screening and vaccination, and where those will be done at different sites starting from October 6th in Georgetown, Sandy Bay, Bocoment, and you'll also have in Leo. And you have now where we eliminated last year the transmission of HIV and syphilis from mother to child.
Yes, yes.
And I just want to say this also on that note, that it is the intention of the government, the Unity Labour Party government already said this, that with the relocation of more or less the hospital, the main hospital for St. Vincent to Adamsville, the current hospital, which we know as Milton Cato Memorial, will be served as a maternal and child health care specialized health facility. So anything pertaining to mothers or pregnant moms and children, pediatric care and the like, Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, under the plan of this government, will be the place to go.
Yeah. Buddy, one thing I'm hoping for with these women organization, the same enthusiasm they have with the fight against violence for women and girls, I want to see them put this in for the fight against
HPV
and cervical cancer. I will looking forward for that. I want to see the same enthusiasm against that fight.
I agree, because it is something that, as the minister said, you had 24 who died last year. There are others who have it. And with the ramping up, I'm quite sure the ramping up of this campaign. And this is another thing too, I just want to put out there, because I remember when the Ministry of Health encouraged persons to get vaccinated against HPV. You have the usual skeptics, what they call them, the anti-vax group, who, for whatever reason, are discouraging women from getting vaccinated against HPV. Again, this is a very serious issue. So listen to the professionals, and of course, read what I would call credible and very verified medical and scientific sites. But I really and truly agree with you, Charlo, that I am hoping that not just the women groups also, but NGOs in particular, that they will encourage women, not just to get the screening and vaccinated, but even things in terms of pap smear, encouraging more women to get their usual checkup in that regard. So a lot of things happening on this front, on health front. And of course, remember, we have decentralized healthcare in this country. You have the Chateaubelair Smart Hospital. You have the Barley Smart Clinic. You have the Selena Clouden Smart Hospital in Union. You have the Mokomen Polyclinic. You have the Levi Latham Health Complex in Maraqua. You have the Georgetown Smart Hospital. You have the Modern Medical Diagnostic Center, which is delivering dialysis, chemotherapy, MRI services. And I just want to say there are over 70-something persons receiving free hemodialysis, kidney dialysis care as provided by the state. And it's the government's intent to convert the Kalakwa Clinic into a polyclinic. And you have more and more ramping up in terms of decentralization of health services, including X-ray.
Yes.
You can go to the different polyclinics now and get your X-rays done here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and you have the pharmacy there as well, and the doctor, you know.
You could clearly say that with all the smart facilities we have and the trust that the government putting in health, York is indeed a smart government.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. And I was just reminded that you also have transport for dialysis patients, which has started. And this this brings me into another talking point. I don't know how many persons recognize this white van with MOVE in front called Move. And the government started this initiative also to transport persons who are differently we call them social mobilization, and they provide that as well. So, as I said, this is a working government.
Working.
And anyone who says otherwise, clearly, they're not thinking clearly. They have jaundice thinking, and they're not seeing clearly. Because even Stevie Wonder could see and know
definitely
that this Labour government is working in the interest of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And as we roll out more and more services, the acute care hospital is going to significantly advance the delivery of health care for all Vincentians, because one of the things they're going to focus on there is also neurosurgery. You know, it's just putting into the brain.
Yes.
Also going to focus on climate change, health issues. The place is getting hotter, so you have to look at things now like heat stroke, for example. All these things the acute care hospital will focus on, including the construction of a helipad, because it is the aim and the objective of the government to have a helicopter service provided. I'm not going to say it's going to be state-owned, but that is part of the aim if that service can be provided, because as you know, we are a multi-island state.
Correct.
We have what they call Medivac, which is the vessel, and that can take persons from the Grenadines to mainland. But the government also will be focusing on having a helipad, a helicopter service for that regard, where persons can not only be transported from the Grenadines to the main hospital, which will be at Arnesville, but even in terms of the Modern Medical Diagnostic Center, and, you know, it can land on the playing field behind.
Yes.
So you get all these plans from a Unity Labour Party government. What do you get from the NDP?
Farmville.
Yeah. That's the question. What do you get from the NDP? We're talking health.
Yes.
In this instance, what do you get from them? Think about it as long as they want and as hard as they want. What do you get from the NDP pertaining to health? I mean, I could remind you where Sinclair Leacock himself, where he said And NDP government would have to sell off a lot of state assets, including our hospital. I could tell you that. And if you want a reminder about it, I could play it for you too, if you're doubting me. Because I know these days sometimes there are those who say, nah, man, for the youth, you're just making up things. But I always like to bring the facts. So I want you to listen for yourself.
Report on the current port, the net profit is $4 million. You think that when you go over to the new port of $700 million, that the profit is going to go multiply by 10 to $40 million? And even if it's $40 million profit, you think that's enough for what will turn out to be about $1 billion investment? And that's something the NDP will have to do. NDP will have to look at all of the last sets of capital investment by this government and try to sell off some by way of public-private sector partnerships. Starting with the hospital, we have to see if the medical schools can't all take about 5 to 10% equity in that and reduce the tax burden on the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and help with the profitability enterprise. We still have to explore those possibilities with the existing port and with total investments, because we can't go on with this debt.
Yeah, that. He said starting with what?
Hospital.
Starting with the hospital. I don't know what that means. Anytime you start to privatize or divest shares in your health facilities, it means the cost, no doubt, will increase. You ain't talking about $5 for medication anymore.
No way.
You better pay the market price for that medication and the services that you'll be receiving. You know, Charlie, it's the same thing I tell bosses, you know, when you start to talk about privatizing state assets, one of the first thing on the books is how do you improve efficiency?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first thing on the agenda is to look at whether there are any redundancies in terms of jobs in that workplace or in that health facility.
Yes.
So where you may have 6 janitors, it may say you only need 2. Where you may have 50 nurses, given the makeup and the space and the service offered, they say maybe need 25.
Yes.
You know? And that is one of the first things on discussion, retrenchment of workers. So when you hear they talk about privatizing, you better take warning, because we have what, 74 persons receiving dialysis care at the cost of the state. When you privatize that, you better get the money to foot that cost. I think it's $75,000 a month. Thereabout. Mm-hmm. You better foot that cost. Not a month. Sometimes it go up to a year, but you better foot that cost. And if you're not able to foot that cost of $75,000, you as an individual, in terms of your own dialysis care, then the only other thing you would have to choose is death.
Indeed.
And that is something that you would have to think about. If that yearly cost of $75,000, that you can't meet that cost. We bring the facts, but it's up to you, the individual, who have to sit, decipher, and ask yourself these very important questions as we get closer and closer to that date. Charlo, also, you have in the country, as persons can see, ramping up of some other projects by the state. I also want to make mention of the home repair program, which is speedily going quick. The Minister of housing reminded us of the over 5,000 homes that the government already repaired, and that is significant. I remind persons that these 5,000 homes, or even 1,000, they weren't built in a space of a year. Huh? You could imagine these homes weren't built in a space of a year. They were built over a period of time. But here you have the government within the space of a year and 2 months has already repaired over 5,000 and still building homes for people.
Yes, yes.
You know, a government that is working. And that is a Herculean effort which the Unity Labour Party government has set out to do and to achieve. And I know that the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines know that if the Unity Labour Party has started something, it will finish it. You know, and they know also that it is only the Unity Labour Party that will finish the home for them, because the NDP isn't committed really in building home for people. If already you hear Sinclair Leacock telling you, he's the vice president of the NDP, and he say, no if buts now, maybe he must be the deputy prime minister for NDP to win. That's his words. And he already saying that an NDP government will have to privatize state assets to save money. Then is Billy Graham build house for you? Because government, I'm telling you now, government has no obligation whatsoever to build house for anybody.
Indeed.
I'm saying it here and now. No government has any obligation to build house for a single soul. But not just build house, but even to repair house for a single soul. None. It is because of the philosophy of the Unity Labour Party where shelter is a right.
Yes.
And because of the leadership of the Unity Labour Party, which is in government, that it is rebuilding and repairing homes for people.
That's an important factor in this body.
I'm telling you.
Leadership.
Oh, yes. And where you have the NDP already saying that they will have to privatize state assets to save money, then it's house the grain bill for you, but they have no obligation.
You won't see that.
If hospital, which is to provide service to the people and save lives, the NDP is saying that they will privatize. Is house the grain bill for you?
Don't look for that.
Don't look for it. And therefore, you have more and more of these homes that are being built and repaired for the average man and woman in this country. Also, as we continue to move along with what's happening for this week, we talk about the talent search, we talk about the fertilizer distribution, we talk about HPV screening and testing. And again, I repeat, the locations for testing, you're gonna have Leyu, Georgetown, Sandy Bay, and Bokoment. And very important, you have ongoing the Sandy Bay Sea Defense project. And I always say that these projects, they may not seem sexy or as important in some people's eyes. But I always say this, Jalo, and those of you listening, imagine if early in the term of this government, it didn't build the Leyu Waterfront project or embark on that Leyu Waterfront project. Imagine what would have happened today.
Indeed.
Because I remind you, Salt Whistle Bay, Myro was already being prepared to be split up. Now imagine if the government didn't embark on that Salt Whistle Bay project under the stewardship, of course, of former Member of Parliament and who was Deputy Prime Minister Sylvie Straker. You imagine if that didn't happen. We're talking about the police station, the church, all those properties on the bayfront would have been lost to the sea. So these projects is about safeguarding property.
Yes.
and lives and livelihoods. Very important. And that is why they are costly. And that is why the debt increases, because the government now have to spend money to do these things, which is not of its fault, but because of climate change, and it's because of its priority in making sure that your property, that your livelihood is safeguarded. And it's the same thing. I remember, Charlo, there were many instances where persons in Bokoment, after a heavy rainfall, they then have to wonder, boy, what next? But let me take this call. Greetings. Okay, we lost those 2 calls. You can call back 457-9997. That's 457-9997 to get interactive with us. But there was that time. Once you had torrential rainfall, river come down, persons living in Bokomen, Pembroke area had to look out. But greetings, caller. Welcome to Shakeup.
Good morning, Mr. Ferdinand.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Greetings.
And your assistant, Mr. Charles.
Greetings, Robbie.
Yeah, greetings, and I hope there'll be hot bread at the football later.
Come and you'll see.
This is mega football. mega Friday. Yes.
How you do, gentlemen?
I'm good.
We're hanging in there.
Yes. Mr. Ferdinand, what are the natural resources of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that the Unity Labour Party inherited when it came into office in March 2001?
Well, we have sun, soil, mountain. And if you're looking at resource, you have the people.
Yes.
Yes. Can you take any of these to a financial institution to secure a loan?
Well, whatever land you have equity, that's all.
Okay.
You have the vast space,
How do the opposition expect small island developing states like St. Vincent and the Grenadines can develop and can rehabilitate itself if not through the securing of grants and soft loans? How can the opposition expect St. Vincent and the Grenadines to open up its country to potential investors without an international airport and a functioning modern seaport? I ask those questions because when you listen, they speak about the increase of the debt. But not once have the leader of the opposition convened the Public Accounts Committee to ask the technocrats and other civil servants explain to the committee where the money gone. Mr. Ferdinand, have you heard of any such meeting?
Well, what I do know is that, to save face, the leader of the opposition convened a meeting after being called upon many months by not only his own colleague, the vice president of the NDP, but even citizens, that it's time enough for the opposition to do the job and convene a meeting. However, so far, and I'm waiting to see whether the next parliament coming up, whether there will be a report on such meeting before the House of Assembly. That hasn't been done.
Okay, but since you mentioned report, has he tabled a report when he was sent to Trinidad to learn how to manage a public accounts committee?
Not to my knowledge. And for persons wondering, the leader of the opposition was sent, I can say this, by the state actually, to Trinidad to learn the procedures of how to convene a meeting since last year, February.
Yes.
and it's only the middle of this year, after being called upon so many times to this job, he convened one.
Good. Because they always happen about accountability. And isn't the government making available to parliamentarians monies to manage a constituency office?
Yes.
So how is it? There is an opening of a constituency office sometime this weekend by an opposition parliamentarian. So what was being done with those monies in the weeks and months gone by? Just asking questions, Mr. Ferdinand. Because if you're giving me X amount of money every month to operate an office, I'm supposed to have an office open to serve the people of the constituency. And if there is no office, I'm supposed to account to the taxpayers through the parliament what I did with that money. Am I right or wrong?
You're correct.
Good. So these are the things that we have to take very, very serious.
What I will say here, I don't know how many persons remember this. A question was posed once to a former member of parliament who was a very prominent politician in this country as to what they're doing with the funds for the constituency office. And that former member of parliament responded to say that he takes the money to buy groceries and things for people. I don't know how many persons remember that.
But if you take the money to buy groceries,
don't ask me if he don't ask me if he brought the receipts to the accounting officer.
But he has to account for it. It is not the Speaker of the House money. It is not the Prime Minister's money. They manage it on behalf of the taxpayers. He has to account for it. Same as the leader of the opposition has to account for his sojourn in Trinidad, learning how to manage a public accounts committee. And if they cannot manage those little things, how you expect them to manage a developing economy like St. Vincent and the Grenadines? How do we expect them to do? When a little committee, public accounts committee, you have failed to convene it, you have failed to submit reports. I mean, Mr. Ferdinand, we give jokes, but I mean, if persons in opposition, which is in all practical purposes a government in waiting, you cannot operate as a government in waiting. You cannot put forward consistent policies on various socio-economic issues. You cannot come forward and say, we support this, we do not support this, and they only support things, projects as elections is on their doorstep. There is no consistency. And to make matters worse, they are threatening the stability of this country by stating, according to the vice president, they will call out their supporters at 5:30 in the afternoon of the day of elections. And you think foreign governments are not taking note? Foreign investors are not taking note? Anyway.
Yes.
Enjoy mega football.
Thank you.
Looking forward to my brother.
Thank you very much for your call. All right, I think Marco, we can take the break. 12:15 here at St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The Grenadines, are you ready? From October 2nd to October 5th, the Victoria Park will explode with the vibes of the Cannabis SVG Festival. Day 1 and 2, October 2nd and 3rd. It's the opening ceremony, expo, and conferences. Day 3.